If you've ever dreamed of living the tropical lifestyle here in Bali, or you're just looking for a ridiculous return on investment for your money, then this is the video for you. Because today, I'm gonna be showing you the process of buying land, how much land costs in different regions, what to expect, basically everything that I've learned up to this point here as a landowner and somebody that's soon building my dream villa. You have no idea how much I wish I had this video before starting this process, because it's been headaches, it's been challenging at times, but it really didn't have to be. Finding the right information is hard, and I hope I can help you here today. Let's get started. In this video, I'm gonna be going over a few things, but the main ones are how to actually get started on buying or building your dream home. From there, we can talk about how much land you'll actually need and how much it should in theory cost. From there, we're gonna talk about how much it actually costs to build something on that land. That way, if you've got $100,000 or $1 million saved up to build here in Bali, you'll know roughly what you'll be able to get. Today is a very exciting day. I am back here on my jungle land, and tomorrow it's going to be looking significantly different. We're gonna get this place cleaned up, all of the weeds, all of the overgrown bushes are gonna be hacked back. The first real day of construction, turning this into my dream villa, a place that I cannot wait to one day be able to call home. But you can probably see why this land is so special to me. Canggu is full of rice fields, and they're beautiful, don't get me wrong, but just wait until your next door neighbor builds right next to you with a 3-story concrete villa. That's pretty much what all of Canggu has become. Last year, I drove my motorbike all around until I found this little paradise, and I could not be more excited about the area I chose. Let's start off with the 3 main ways to get yourself into your dream home. First of all, you can buy a ready-made one, and that's actually what I did with my first house. It's also the reason why I could have probably built it for almost half the cost if I had done it myself. But it would have been a lot of work. It comes as no surprise that buying a ready-made villa really means that you get to skip a lot of the headaches. It does not mean that all your problems are solved. You still need to make sure that the build quality is good enough for your standards. You also need to make sure that you're hiring a notary to ensure that the person selling you the property has actually done a good job and actually owns the land. Imagine a situation where you buy a property only to figure out that the person never really owned the land. Or imagine finding out the contractor actually got ripped off and they never had the ownership of the land. When that time comes, look over the contract and make sure that what you're buying is actually what's on paper. Now, the second way is an off-plan villa, and what that really means is you're buying the renders, the drawings, and the land that is being sold to you, but the building's actually not built yet. This is great because generally it means you have time to do a little bit more customization. It also means you're going to save a little bit of money versus the ready-made villa, which is ready for you to move in. So all in all, off plans can be really great when you're looking to park a bit of money somewhere, as long as you trust the contractor. There is a little bit more risk here because your contractor could go under, your contractor could take off with some of your money, and you also need to make sure that the contractor that's selling you the land and the plans actually owns the land. Now, one of the good things about off plan is that you generally don't pay everything up front. You're going to pay stage by stage. So maybe the first 20% is sent over upon signing contract, and then you don't send the next 10% until the foundation is built. Then you don't send the next 10% till the roof is on. Another 10% once the walls are up. So there is a building plan, which means you're not all in the same way you would be with a ready-built villa. Now, one thing to note is whether you did a ready-built villa or off-plan, you most likely do not own the land for eternity. You probably have a rental agreement known as a leasehold, but we'll talk about that shortly. Now, the third way to get the best price, but trust me, you're going to have to work for it, is buying a plot of land and building everything yourself. Now, this is the journey I have embarked on over the last few months as I began building my dream villa. With full 360 trees and jungle, it truly is going to be a piece of art. But for those who are up for the adventure and the challenges that come with it, this is where you get full individuality, where you get full creative control, because you decide which designer is going to take your vision to fruition. You can hunt down the best piece of land and the best deals. So, welcome to my piece of jungle land. And you might be wondering, how did you find this? How do you recommend going about finding land? Well, let me just tell you, there's a few ways you can do it. If you're out of country and you need help, there's no question about it, you're gonna need a good real estate agent. I've got someone I can recommend. That's all gonna be down in the description. But when you're here in Bali, you're willing to give up your valuable time to go on a wild goose hunt chase. Is that a word? Go on a wild chase.
Wild goose chase.
just know that you can actually go find property on your own. This is probably the only performing part of my investment portfolio of 2021 through 2022, and it came by building a relationship with a local family. Over the period of a few days, I was getting to know them, I was chatting with them, we kept in touch, and then we went to negotiations. This enabled me to cut out one of the big costs which come with convenience, which is the middleman, the person that introduces the buyer to the seller. I went straight from seller, and that helped me save money. It also helped me find something truly unusual for Canggu. I mean, these old growth trees are not something you'll typically find out here. Your average home is gonna be anywhere from 75 square meters on maybe the smaller end to a large scale villa being up to 500. 75 being a 1-bedroom studio kind of deal, and 400 square meters being a 4-bedroom mega villa. And one of the metrics that helps you ballpark how much it should cost for the build, excluding the cost of land, on average, you're looking at 7 million per square meter on the affordable end of things. Again, mostly concrete exteriors, not going overboard with wooden or stone additions. Now the middle end is probably about 8.5, and that's where you've probably got a middle of the run contractor with some finishings that will add a bit of character, personality, but again, not going overboard, because if you do, you're soon stepping into that 10 to 12 million per square meter territory. And I've even seen some people quoting up to 15 and 18 if you're going to ultra luxe, where you're doing marble, highest end everything. It can add up, but that's just simple math. Definitely use it as a guideline. But one thing to keep in mind, inflation is on a bit of a tear, and what I'm posting today might not even be relevant in a year from now, maybe not even in 6 months from now. But let's hope it stops. It's really hard to summarize how much your villa should cost, but one thing you should know is that a lot of the price will depend on whether you go for a polished concrete exterior or start adding slabs of stone, as I have. These things will bring your price up and up, and that's why we've seen a lot of Mediterranean style properties popping up in Bali. Not only are they beautiful and appealing, getting high return on investment on Airbnb, but they're also a lot cheaper to build. Now I've opted into an expensive building style. I love this Japanese minimalism with this very organic Bali feel, but it's definitely costing me about a 20% premium, especially with my long roof built out of steel. And sadly, inflation has been a roller coaster this year, which has made some of the supplies, especially steel and even labor, start to go up. If I had built last year, I probably would be spending at least 15% less. So now let's say you found your land. There's two different ways to go about it. You can either do what's known as a leasehold or a freehold. Now, freehold is essentially buying the land. You own it. With a leasehold, it's a fixed period of time for which you are the renter of the land, although you do own the building that's put on top of it. I would say 95% of people that are getting involved in Bali that are expats, they're probably going for a leasehold. First of all, leasehold, you don't actually need to have a business here in Indonesia. You could come in as an individual, as a traveler, as a vacationer, and you could actually start a leasehold with just about any piece of land. In order to have a freehold, you either need to have an Indonesian passport or you need to have an Indonesian business. Right there, that's going to disqualify a lot of people. And although it may sound like, hey, why don't I just set up a business here in Indonesia? Just know there are a lot of implications, and if you want to talk to the right people for that, linked in the description, because my God, I am not going to try to explain it. On average, I'd say people go for 20 to 25 years, but of course it just comes back to how much money do you have on hand and how long do you want to hold that land down for. So now let's talk about what happens when your leasehold ends. What happens is you are going to have to renegotiate your land if you choose to keep it. So if you've invested a sizable amount of money into building a villa, it might be in your best interest in 35 years from now to renew that land. Basically, somebody's going to come in and say how much the market value of the land is. There's actually going to be a renewal that will be deemed fair based on the surrounding market value. Now this part's gonna be a little strange for all my North American friends, and that is that with leaseholds, you're probably going to have to pay 100% of that money up front. I say that as a probably because of course you can negotiate whatever you want with the landholders, but just know that that is the norm here in Bali. Now, you might be wondering, how much land am I going to need for a villa? And to answer this the most simple way possible, let me show you the most common measurement tool here in Indonesia, and that is the ARA. An ARA is 10 by 10 if you were to make it a square, and it would look like this. Now, as you can see, 1 ARA is not a ton of space, but where I currently live is a 2-floor townhouse and we don't have much of an outdoor space. So that's probably 1 to 1.5 ARA that my house is built on. To get really big with you, a soccer field, or a football field for my European friends, is 70 ARA. And up to the halfway line is 35 ARA. Your average property is probably sitting on 2 to 3 ARA. 4 to 6 ARA is where you're stepping into that luxury property, and anything 6+ for a single villa is very, very large. But this measurement can be applied as a rectangle, as a triangle, or any shape at all. So now that we understand the measurement of an ARA, let's talk about how much an ARA costs based on different areas. And keep in mind, the price will change literally tomorrow, but as of June 2022, this is what you can expect. If you're in Brawa or Canggu, you are in some of the most expensive areas. And if you are right near the action of it all, you're probably gonna be spending 40 to 45 million per ARA per year. From 1 to 10 years, I wouldn't expect much of a discount below that, but if you go into 20 years, you might be able to shave off a little bit, just as if you go into 35 years, you'll even be able to get a slightly discounted rate on average. Some landlords might not cut you a break, but some will. A year ago, Preranon is where you could have gotten things for 15 million per ARA, but not anymore. If you're anywhere near the commercial strip, the main road, you're again looking at 40 to 45 million per ARA. It has skyrocketed. And it just goes to show Preranon is our next big Canggu. Now this 40 million plus category is in the core areas. If you start to make your way to the outskirts, you can easily start seeing your price drop to 30, 25, and in some cases even into the 20 region. Now personally, I'm all about getting away from the chaos, the traffic, and so I am more excited about the areas where I actually get cheaper prices. If history repeats itself, which it probably will, unless the volcano explodes, this place is gonna keep on booming. The development has gone from south to west, from Kuta to Seminyak to Canggu, and now it's going to Preranon. The next places that people are talking about and are already developing like crazy are Sese, Chomagi, and soon to be into the Tabanon area. These 3 regions are where you can still find some good deals. Sese is close to Preranon, and so you're probably not going to find the cheapest prices. You're looking at roughly 15 million per ARA. If you find the outskirt properties, you can probably get closer to that 10 region. Going a little further to Chomagi, you might just get something close to 7 or 8 million per ARA, but a screaming deal can be found closer to 5 million per ARA. Once you go into Tabanon, there are places as cheap as 2 million per ARA. And I'm telling you, there was a time when everyone thought Preranon was too far to drive to. And people are saying that about Tabanon today, but it will not stay like that. If you cut ahead even a little bit further, there's a place called Kadungu, and this is an area that's already kind of jumping ahead in development. Kadungu, even though it's further from Canggu and Preranon, is actually even a bit more expensive because a lot of surfers have moved out there, as well as coffee shops and restaurants have started to spring open. You're looking at between 5 to 10 million per ARA out in that area. Now I didn't really mention Seminyak or Kuta. To be honest, I don't know their prices today, but I personally would not recommend building there right now. The newest property rocket is Uluwatu and the whole southern Bukit. Uluwatu is just minutes away, right at the footsteps of the best surf that this island has to offer. And this region has been relatively quiet, being more of a place for tourists than for people living here. But one thing that we're seeing a lot of right now is developments. In fact, a lot of people from Canggu are saying they're moving down here to get away from the traffic. Although if this continues, there probably won't be much difference here soon because it is coming up quick. Just a year ago, you could buy prime land up on a mountain for 7 million per ARA. That property is now worth about 15 million. If you're wondering how cheap it can get, because this is a massive island, if you don't mind being in the middle of nowhere, 250,000 to 500,000 Indonesian rupiah per ARA has been heard of. But once you get into these areas where they almost have no tourism, you're really going to need to buy based on building a relationship. Do not just buy land and plop your villa there. Get to know the village, get to know the people, and make sure you're welcome there before you invest a bunch of your money only to find out you were never quite welcomed. If you're not comfortable yet on where to buy and what to buy, then that's where a real estate agent is going to be really good. Not only can they help you find the right spot, but they're also going to make sure you have the right legal advice and notary to ensure that the land you buy is going to legally be yours. Because again, if you don't hire the right people to protect you, then if you're dealing with the wrong person, you can get burned. Now, because this video is meant to be very thorough, let me take you through the entire checklist from getting your plot of land all the way to moving into your brand new villa. The first step is going to be finding your land. From there, you're going to negotiate with the land owners. Once you've made an agreement, you're going to need a notary. company. A notary is going to be the person that's going to turn that into a legal document. From there, the landowner and yourself will visit the notary, sign the document, and the notary will be in charge of that monetary exchange. From there, you're going to have to pay tax on the land. Usually it's going to be about 10% of the value of that said land. So if you spent $100,000 renting your land for 30 years, then it's probably gonna cost you 10 grand in tax. Congrats, you now have your land and you're ready to build. At least that's what I used to think. I was mistaken. Once I found my land, I then hired a topographer. The topographer measured the entire land, from the borders to the hills, and even plotting the big trees on the land. And they also did a soil test. Now, depending on the purpose of your villa and the design you're going for, finding the right designer can be difficult. One of my best friends in Bali actually hired the wrong company, and in the end, the 20 grand he spent on the design fee almost did nothing for him. Just like dating, it's good to have a few conversations before you go and commit all the way with that person. To give you a bit of a spectrum on what you can expect to spend, I've heard on the low end between $10,000 and $15,000 for your average villa, but most of the time you're looking at that $20,000 range. And now that things are getting busier here in Bali, people have been cranking up their price. For me to get my place designed, it cost me around $28,000. Now, the exact same building would probably cost me closer to $40,000. But keeping in mind that this is a very large villa. If you're building a small one-bedroom villa, your cost can easily come down to that $10,000, $15,000 mark. From there, I was able to go start interviewing architects and finding out who would be the one that could turn my vision into a reality. Luckily, I found the right people at a price, but they did an awesome job. And while I thought I could start building hopefully in just a matter of 2 or 3 months later, it took almost 9 months until we finished the drawings. Not just the renders, but also the engineering. But I'm pleased to say it's done, and I'm very happy I waited because it's going to be beautiful. Now you might think you're ready to start building, but guess what? Who's gonna swing the hammer and who's gonna oversee the job site? So now that you've got your drawings, you need to start looking for contractors. Contractors are very difficult to choose. I will tell you from my experience, I have talked to about 6 contractors at once. It's been a mind-numbing process. I really hope that by the end of this process, I'll be able to tell you who is a good contractor. But until the foundations are poured, until a few hammers have been swung, I can't confidently tell you just yet. I've got some real horror stories, but trust me, I don't think that's gonna be necessary. I hope to be able to share with you good, sound contractors to choose from. So yeah, picking your contractor is not that easy. It's a bit stressful, and that took me another 3 months. But yesterday, I confirmed my contractor. Let's make a phone call and get this in motion.
Hello.
I have finally made my decision. I would love to build the house with you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Great news for us, yeah.
Great news for me too. I'm very
yeah.
excited. Now, once you've found your contractor, what you're going to also need to do is consider whether you hire a supervising company. A lot of people will actually hire a third party to oversee the construction site. Imagine I hire a contractor and they don't have good intentions. Imagine instead of the high quality concrete, they're using the low quality concrete because it's cheaper and they can pocket the difference. Well, these things happen, and this can come back to bite you later. Putting all your faith in one contractor can be risky. That supervisor can either be on site every day or, once a week, and especially during critical moments like pouring the foundation, waterproofing the home, and other technical parts of the build that you don't want to mess up. Generally, a supervisor will cost you anywhere from 15 to 25 million per month, and in some cases it can be even more. I know that price probably sounds expensive, especially when it's optional, but just remember that sometimes cutting corners actually costs you a lot more. Now, if I had gone with an off-plan or a finished villa, I wouldn't have to worry about all of this so far. Basically, these are the conveniences you're paying for. You pretty much would only need to make sure that you have the legal side covered, so hiring a notary to double check and make sure that everything you're buying into is legit is pretty much the only part you would need to worry about. But if you decide to buy a plot of land, just know you're going to go through a lot of problem solving. And if you're looking for the right people, I've found the right people by hiring the wrong people, firing the wrong people, and then retrying with the right people. It's taken me a bit of work. It's definitely cost me thousands of dollars, but I have gotten to a place where everybody I can recommend is down below, and it's a great way to save yourself a lot of stress. But there's certain parts of this process that I'm still undergoing. I'm just about to start building, and so I'm not yet ready to recommend my contractor. But if things go smoothly, if I'm confident they can do a good job for you, then hopefully I'll be sharing more if you guys are enjoying this building series. So now that you've got your contractor, it's time to build. Almost. Sort of. There's one last thing that's kind of standing in your way, and that is the new PBG. It's really confusing, and it only just changed last year, and it created a lot of chaos for people like myself. But honestly, that's where you just need to hire the right people, and I'm not that person. From what I've heard, you can start building before actually getting your building permit, but that process should be going on while you're building. The building process takes anywhere from 10 to 14 months. Most builders will tell you the shorter end, but take that with a huge grain of salt, because generally speaking, it's very rare that people do finish in the under 1 year mark. Now, if you are that lucky person, 12 months from now, you should in theory have a villa that's ready to move in. Congratulations, you've either got your new home or your new cash cow business, because the nightly rate on rentals here in Bali are pretty astronomical relative to the cost of building them. The return on investment is absurd. Some people have made their money back in as little as 4 years of renting it out, which I don't think you'll ever find that anywhere in North America. And on the slow end of things, most people will make their money back in 6 to 7 years. Right now, I am in the process of figuring out what to do with my lower land. And I'm pretty positive I know what it's gonna be now. It's going to become a luxury project modeled very closely off of this upper land villa. I've actually been in Bali for 5 years. I know the difference between a holiday home and a live-in home. The kind of place you wanna stay in for 2 nights and then get out, and the kind of place that you could stay in for the next few months. And I've taken all of that knowledge, all the things that I've learned from living in my own townhouse, and I'm gonna be creating the perfect place that has that balance of indoor living and outdoor living. Having a green terrace with a pool, having surrounding trees, Western style amenities and qualities, and these would be sold off plan, meaning that I will save you a lot of the problem solving, a lot of the stress. And if you wanna stay posted with the specs, the designs, and the cost when it's all ready, then just sign up for that email list down below and we'll keep you posted. Now, this video is a lot more information heavy than most of you probably wanted, but for those of you who were in my shoes 1 year ago, you're welcome. Truly, this process is a little confusing. It feels like the Wild West when you first get into it, but what makes all the difference is having the right connections, and I'm happy that I can make them for you. And if you need help with any of these processes, just check those links down below. I'd be happy to put you in touch with the right people, because this is the difference between getting set up here in Bali and getting burned. And again, my name is Christian. If you enjoy content about Bali, about living here, hit that subscribe button, and let's get lost again in the next one.